I think of how a relationship with God means even more to this modern world that lacks safety. But in the kingdom of God, God keeps us safe in His arms. I hope that you can know this kind of safety, that God has you in His arms.
So, I'm Scott Green, and this is my wife, Lynn, and we've worked in the ministry now in the ICOC churches really for, my goodness, almost 40 years now. It's so hard to believe that, but that's the truth of it. Lynn and I think we're very lucky in 1987 to be able to go to Hong Kong, China, and begin a work there that now has spread all over China. We have about 2,000 disciples in Hong Kong now, about 500 in Taiwan, and then I think about 1,000 disciples in mainland China these days.
We didn't know what we were doing. We just wanted to share the gospel around the world, and we had a vision, and we had tons of young national leaders that then took this work all over Hong Kong, Taiwan, and China. The biggest challenge for us there was learning Cantonese and learning to adjust to life in an Asian country. And it became home. And so when we had to leave Hong Kong in 1997, that was another one of the hardest things that we ever had to do, was to leave our family and friends there.
After that, we lived in Seattle, Washington, leading the congregation there at the Seattle Church of Christ. From 1997 to 2014. And then after our children grew up, graduated from high school, went to college, and have mainly moved through that phase of their life, we began to ask ourselves, what's next? You know, is there another chapter for us? And as we got to know some of the Christians here in the Berlin church, they finally said, hey, would you come on over here and help us like Macedonia? Which they did back in, was it 2011, I guess?
Mm-hmm. Scott was really ready, and Lynn had to get on board. You know, moving again around the world after 50, after cancer, was a challenge. But the vision is worth it.
Life is difficult, but spiritual life is always worth the difficulty. It's very, very exciting to see the church on its feet and really advancing the gospel again in Berlin, in Brandenburg, and really all over Deutschland.
We're still learning German. And then in the fall,
Beten Sie für unser Deutsch.
We had a challenge that comes with life. You just get life challenges.
Everybody knows, I think, that about a year ago I was diagnosed with brain cancer. There's nothing about that diagnosis that can be called good news.
So Doug Arthur, a good friend, visited us when Scott was diagnosed after his surgery. And Doug visited us in Seattle and said, what do you guys want to do? And it's a time when you don't really know for sure what you want to do, and yet Scott was very certain. He looked at Doug and said, what'd you say?
So I looked at Doug and I said, you know, what else is there? This is what we've trained our whole lives to do. This is what we want to do. So for us, it's not a hard decision to make. We want to go back to Berlin. So we are lucky to be here, but we really believe that our lives are not in the doctor's hands per se, but in the hands of God. And we are really willing to be led by Him wherever, whenever, for His kingdom to advance. We're grateful.
But even with the danger, I've also felt a different kind of safety than I ever have before in my spiritual life. And if my death comes sooner rather than later, it will come to me while I'm in the arms of God.